Have you ever looked at your bank account at the end of the month and wondered where all your money went? Or been afraid to make a necessary purchase because you weren't quite sure how much money was in your checking account? Or even worse, have you ever had to charge something like rent to a credit card because an emergency came up a few weeks earlier and there was no other way to take care of it? Money is a necessity. With very few exceptions, we all need it. We need it for food, shelter, clothing, and in order to spend some fun activities with our families. For most of my life, I have been a compulsive saver. It was because I was terrified that if I spent money on something now, in the unforeseen future, I would need something and I wouldn't have the money to have it. It was crippling. For the first few years of college, I didn't have a lot of fun because I was afraid to do anything that required that I spend money. After I got married, my husband introduced me to the wonderful world of the functional budget. And through that, we were able to meld our very different spending styles and come up with something that worked for both of us. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about why you need to budget and why you need to start now. We're going to talk about how it can increase your personal and marital happiness, and especially how it can increase your financial well-being. These are all very intertwined, but I'm going to separate them as much as I can. First, we're going to talk about your financial well-being. Most personal financial advisors will tell you that a good budget is the foundation to financial satisfaction. You can't know what you can afford unless you really understand exactly how much money you make and exactly how much money you spend. First, how to know what you can really afford. A budget helps you see exactly how much money you have and exactly where it goes, so that, for instance, when you go in to purchase a car, you know how much money you can afford to make on a car payment. And when the salesman tries to upsell you, which they always do, you will know that even though the upgrades will only cost you $30 or $40 a month more, you know that you don't have that money. It has other things to do. This helps because you understand where your money goes in regards to food, rent, and also with different expenses that come up at different points during the year, such as back to school shopping or semi-annual insurance payments. Once you know exactly what you can afford, you can really enjoy what you purchase because you don't have to be afraid of how you're going to make that payment. You know where the money will come from. A budget will also help you to avoid crises. And the blog article by Money Ning, I did not say that incorrectly, it's Money Ning. He recommends that as you see your budget, you are able to spot trends, that you look for places where you could be spending your money better. For instance, you can notice that over the last year, you have spent more in repairing your car than it would cost to buy a more reliable one. Once you see this, you can avoid a situation like my husband and I had one summer, where we had put off purchasing a new car and ended up in the middle of the central Utah desert with a bent rod on our engine. It wasn't fun, and if we had paid attention, then we could have avoided it. As we budget, we are better able to save. We are able to put money into a savings account for emergencies, as the Prophet recommends. We often mean to put that money into savings, but by the end of the month, we feel that we've run out and we just don't have it. With a budget, we're able to save first and know that the money is there. Once our financial house is in order, it helps us also be happier in our marriage. Since money affects both marriage partners equally, both partners should be equal in setting up their budget. Elder Marvin J. Ashton, in his favorite talk, One for the Money, said, "In the home, money management between husband and wife should be on an equal partnership basis, with both parties having a voice in the decision and policy making. Peace, contentment, love, and security in the home are not possible when financial anxieties and bickering prevail." When both spouses participate actively in setting up the budget and both commit to following that budget, there is an increase in love and trust in your spouse because you know that they have your interests at heart. As well, when you set up your budget together, you are able to save for tithes, offerings, and things like financial reserves, food storage, and saving for larger purchases so you don't have to make them on credit. All of these increase the bond between husband and wife as they seek together to follow the counsel of the prophets. A budget is also incredibly helpful for making hard financial decisions, such as if one spouse should stay home with children or if both spouses need to work. It is wonderful to make these decisions on faith. It is better to make them on a faith based upon study. The Lord has counseled us to study things out in our hearts before we turn to Him. With a budget, we are able to look at the numbers and see if we can really make things work. When we go to the Lord knowing what the numbers say, we can come to Him with an informed decision and seek His counsel. If you are not married, a budget will help you be better prepared for marriage. It will help you understand where your money goes. For instance, would you rather marry somebody that is thrifty and knows where their money is spent, or someone who may not run out of money, but is never quite sure what they spend it on? A good marriage will help your personal happiness as well. When your financial things are in order, your budget will help you to have more freedom in what you spend. If you're like me and were paralyzed by a fear of not having enough money, a budget gives you the freedom to enjoy what you have purchased. Because I know that we have a budget for clothing allowance, I can spend money on myself or my daughter and not be afraid of what will happen, not be afraid of running out of money because I purchased something we really did need. This also helps you to follow the counsel of Elder Bednar and act and not be acted upon. Elder Ashton also said that we need to learn to manage our money before it manages us. Money is a fabulous tool, something that can be very useful, or if misused, it can crush us under the weight. Now, establishing a budget does not have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be time-consuming. First, you just need to get a budget sheet. The templates are available in many places on the internet, particularly office.microsoft.com. I've attached a couple of those templates. You can either use those or just take a look at them and find out what sort of categories you need. I found this very helpful because there are some things that I had not considered. Making sure that you budget for expenses like insurance payments that are only due twice a year, or budgeting for Christmas spending is incredibly helpful if you can budget over the course of the year for it. Once you have your budget sheets, take a few guesses. See what you think you make and what you think you spend. It's good to be able to quantify this so that you can really think about where you spend your money. Once you have your estimates down, take a few weeks and track your spending. Keep all of your receipts, take a look at all of your debit and credit card statements, and look at every penny. Input those expenses daily or weekly, but don't put it off until the end of the month. If you do that, I know from experience it's a much more daunting task and you're less likely to complete it. On a side note, I've also found that by inputting all of my expenses, I am far less likely to make impulse purchases. When I am accountable to myself and my husband and my daughter for how I've spent my money, the frivolous things don't seem quite as necessary. Once you've tracked your spending, look at your actual numbers and find out what you actually spent. You can use those numbers to set up a rough budget based on what you really want. In an article for Kiplinger's magazine, they recommend you use those actual numbers to find places to plug holes. By plug holes, they mean find things that are being spent frivolously that maybe where the money may be better spent. For instance, if you can find that by taking your lunch to work from leftovers from dinner the night before, you could save $50 a month over purchasing fast food. Would it be worth it to take those $50 a month and put them towards a savings goal, or perhaps pay down some credit card debt? For me, it would be worth it. For you, it might not be, and that's okay. A budget is a very personal thing, and it should work for you. As you put together your budget, Kiplinger's also recommends that you look at it and redo things every couple of months. This should work for you. The budget should not dictate what you spend, simply guide it. However, if you ignore your budget completely, you might as well not have it. So, we've been over a lot, so let's review a little bit. A budget will help reduce your stress and make you happier. It does this by making you more financially secure because you know exactly what you can afford, and it helps you to avoid crises. Your marriage will have greater unity as you follow the prophet and make well-informed financial decisions. Your personal happiness will be increased with a newfound freedom as you spend, and also the satisfaction of following the counsel of the general authorities. In the church pamphlet, All Is Safely Gathered In, Family Finances, they tell us, if you have paid off your debts and have a financial reserve, even though it be small, you and your family will feel more secure and enjoy greater peace in your hearts. I know a budget is the best way to start doing this. As I said, I've attached templates for some budget sheets, one for a full year and another one for just 1 month. Please take a look at these. Download them, look over them, talk them over with your parents or your spouse, and start on your budget. I know as you do, you will feel a greater peace and control of your finances in your personal life.